2023 season of ADAC GT Masters. Brilliant driving. It's phenomenal stuff. It's the penultimate round of the ADAC GT Masters season 2023. Hello everybody, welcome to Spielberg, to the Red Bull Ring in some very changeable weather conditions. The rain has been falling, then it stopped, the track dried out. We have just witnessed an epic race in the DTM, and now it's time for the ADAC GT Masters to bring the GT3 cars back to the track once again. You can see the cars are on the pit straight and getting ready for what will be their formation lap in a few moments. And it is Benjamin Highties who has scored his second ever pole position in the ADAC GT Masters, racing for GRT Grasser, the team that are based just a few miles down the road. This, their home race, and they are having a great weekend here. That car really dialed in, and Benjamin Highties, he scored pole position in the opening race of the season. The driver from Chile put it on the front, but was unable to bring it home in the podium positions on that particular occasion. Eventually came home in 8th place, looking to make amends for that here in this, which is race 9 of a 12 race season for the ADAC GT Masters. So we're getting ready for this here at the Red Bull Ring. Really looking forward to it. Alongside me to bring you the commentary this afternoon, the voice of DTM, Chris Hartley. We're still having to sit down after what was a great DTM race, aren't we?
Yeah, we had rain coming down around about 15-20 minutes before the DTM race. That always mixes things up. I had a bit more rain in the middle of the race. That's just finished, but it's finished with pretty much a dry track now. However, slick tyres for sure for these drivers in GT Masters, but go off line over the curbs or run out wide, it's still going to be very damp, so going to have to be a little bit careful here. Benjamin Highties with a good effort in qualifying this morning. He was 3/10 clear, and he and his teammate Marco Mapelli on good form. They've had a win and a second out of the last 3 races, and the championship leaders Simon Vega and Elias Zeppelin with a good lead in the championship, but they've got a bit of work to do today, haven't they, from the third row of the grid?
They have. So Zeppelin and Vega come into this event with a 31-point lead over Finn Gersitz and Sven Muller. Benjamin Highties and Marco Mapelli, well, they are in 3rd place, and they have picked up the bonus 3 points as a result of putting the car on a pole position. There is our championship leader, Simon Vega, who qualified it this morning, somewhere mid in the pack, to be in 5th place, to be precise, so exactly halfway in the pack, and he's sharing with Elias Zeppelin. You did just see a quick glimpse of the number 19 car, just to confuse us, the identical to the number 91 car, the team used by Race Motion Porsche, a second car that has been entered by the team that is headed up by Michael Jus, and he is actually in the driving seat for the first stint in that second car, the number 19 car, and he's done a great job qualifying in P3 for this race. He is sharing driving duties with none other than the former champion in GT Masters, the 2020 champion, Christian Engelhardt. Great to welcome Christian Engelhardt to the grid, back to the grid of the ADAC GT Masters. He is one of the most successful drivers in the history of GT Masters. A couple of other new drivers to the grid this weekend. The FK Performance BMW has at the wheel Bruno Spengler, the 2012 DTM champion. He did appear in a GT Masters quite a few years ago, back in 2015. He got a 4th and a 3rd place, so he's very useful indeed. And he's sharing with Maxi Mausen, the Dutch driver who has featured so prominently in the ADAC GT4 this year, stepping up to the big league for this race in the number 10 BMW. There it is. There was Max Osten, who did the qualifying this morning. It was in at the deep end for him, really. He's learning the ropes as he goes along. He's qualified in 10th place, but we're expecting good things from him in the BMW, which is very strong here at the Red Bull Ring. The turbocharged BMW in these high altitude conditions certainly enjoys the pace. And if you remember last year, we saw Ben Green and Niklas Kruten in the Schubert Motorsport BMW win back-to-back races here at the Red Bull Ring. That is a feat that is pretty difficult to achieve in GT Masters. It doesn't happen very often. Ben Green in the race this year, and he shares with Eduardo Cosseteng. They've qualified in 9th place. Eduardo has qualified the car in 9th place, so a bit of work to do from the back of the pack, but keep an eye on both of those BMWs. You're expecting them to be making progress as this race progresses. We onto the formation lap here at the Red Bull Ring, a circuit that is 4.318 kilometers around. It has 10 turns, 7 to the right and 3 to the left. Lots of undulation, none more so than into turn 3. We're looking down at turn 3 here. A great overtaking opportunity, but a great place to throw it all away as well. It is Benjamin Highties who starts on pole position with Alan Valente for HRT alongside Lamborghini, alongside Mercedes-AMG. Michael Hughes and Jonas Karklees, who's jumped into the Liquimoli team Enxler Audi. He's sharing with John Paul Southern, who joins the series as well. Championship leader Salman Ovega lines up alongside Petru Umberescu, and all Mercedes row 3 of the grid. It's an all Porsche row 4, Finn Gesitz and Janis Fischer. They are in the championship hunt. Eduardo Cosseteng and Maxi Mausen at all BMW back of the grid. Not the biggest field of cars we've ever seen in GT Masters. There are some big plans afoot for the fields to increase significantly in the very near future. But at the moment, you don't need lots of cars for a good race, as has been proven already this year. And there is the championship situation. Elias Seppänen and Salman Ovega ahead of Finn Gesitz and Sven Muller, Benjamin Highties and Marco Mappelli. A 4-way tie for second place in the point standings. There are still plenty of points still available in this championship. There are 25 points available in this race. There is another 28 tomorrow, and then we have another round at Hockenheim towards the end of October. So the championship very much alive. A lot of work to do for Salman Ovega. He wants to protect his championship lead along with Elias Seppänen. He needs to stay out of trouble. A DNF is not what he needs. The safety car ducks off into the pit lane. We are getting ready for what will be race 9 of a 12-race season for the ADAC GT Masters here at the Red Bull Ring. Out onto the pit straight we come in a nice formation. We're waiting for those 5 red lights to go off, and we will have 1 hour of racing ahead of us, plus 1 lap, and we are go. It's Benjamin Highties who steps off that pole position. Michael Hughes to the inside of Alan Valente into turn 1. Keep an eye on that Porsche, although he hits the curb, he goes wide. Salman Ovega coming through as well, so a fairly dramatic first corner. Alan Valente now challenging back at Benjamin Highties, but Michael Hughes went deep into that first corner. Looked like he clipped a curb, but the rest of the cars have all survived, so up towards turn 3 we come. Benjamin Highties in the lead, but Alan Valente having a look on the outside. Michael Hughes coming back again on the inside, but good start from Salman Ovega. He's made up a position. Benjamin Highties leading the way. Alan Valente in his slipstream towards turn 4 they come. It'll be the heavy braking, and then it is the right-hand turn. Benjamin Highties in the GRT Grasser Lamborghini leading the way. Salman Ovega challenging hard for that 3rd place. Janis Fischer, a great start from him. He has moved up behind Salman Ovega. Now Ovega and Hughes running side by side. Ovega going the long way round. Eduardo Cosseteng at the back of the pack there, as well as Jonas Karklees. But the leader, Benjamin Highties, ahead of Alan Valente as the opening lap is almost complete. As Highties has opened up a gap from Valente. Michael Hughes fighting hard with Salman Ovega for the last of those podium positions. Salman Ovega now alongside the Porsche. Pulls past and Ovega up into 3rd place. Benjamin Highties, Alan Valente, Salman Ovega, Michael Hughes. This is his return to GT racing after a long period off. Did a great job in qualifying, but still very much getting back up to speed. Across the line we come, 9/10 of a second to our race leader.
Really good start for Maxi Mausen as well on his debut in GT Masters. 3 places gained in the black BMW, and he was having a look to get another one on Finn Gesitz in the Porsche on the way into turn 1. Finn Gesitz had a big wobbly moment coming out of turn 1 at the start of the race. He's having to defend here from Maxi Mausen. The Dutchman goes right, goes left, and then finds a gap at the inside. That then closes. He goes back to the outside and can't quite find a way through, but he's pulling the pressure on here on the way out of the corner. Maxi Mausen, the winner of the BMW M2 Cup Championship last year, and one of his race wins last season came here at the Red Bull Ring.
So we're looking again at the start of the race, everyone across the line and held formation, but it's always that scramble. It's a steep uphill into turn 1, and you can see Mikhail Yusi clipped the curb on the inside, propelled the car wide. You can see it bouncing there. Didn't look like he did any damage. Everybody scatters, including the team, the sister car, the number 91 car. So it didn't look like there was too much of a trauma outside of that, but Salman Vega had to get on the anchors pretty hard to not get into the back of that Porsche. Also, Janis Fischer taking evading action, taking a very wide line into turn 1. We're looking again at a replay. Max Osten, great start from him, as you already mentioned. Behind Finn Gersitz, our race leader, Benjamin Hightes, Alan Valente, Salman Vega. We're settling down. If you're new to GT Masters, to remind you, it's a 1-hour race, 1 hour plus 1 lap. There is a mandatory pit stop, so there is a point in the race, a window that will open 25 minutes into the race. It will remain open for 10 minutes. During that pit window, every car will need to visit the pits for a mandatory stop and a driver change. Now, we don't normally have tyre changes, they're not permitted in regular conditions in GT Masters, but this has been declared a wet race as Max Osten once again challenges Finn Gersitz for that 6th place. This has been declared a wet race, so if it does start to rain, the drivers will be able to come in and change onto wet tyres. So Max Osten up behind Finn Gersitz for that 6th place.
It's all about traction here as well as top speed. You've got to get it out of a couple of slow corners at turn 3. Drop down to first gear. Turn 4, it's a second gear corner as well. So you've got to get the traction coming out of there. The BMW seems to have that in abundance, certainly in the hands of Maxi Mausen, all over the back of Finn Gersitz at the moment. Finn tied for second in the championship. He and his teammate Sven Muller were caught by Benjamin Hightes and Marco Mappelli when they got 3 points for qualifying on pole position earlier on. So the fight really is on. That replay of the start as well, we saw Finn Gersitz, as I say, getting out of shape, and Petro Umbarescu and the Mercedes almost went into the back of him. That was pretty tight as it was all going on ahead with Yusi's teammate having his own Larry moment. But on this lap, he's just started to get back into the rhythm a bit now, but wait until they get to turn 1. The BMW will be back with the Porsche and will be munstering him all the way up the hill to turn 3 once again, I reckon.
Salman Vega looking very eager in 3rd place, staring at the back of Alan Valente. I expect a move is coming from him before too long, but Max Osten, he's got more horsepower in that BMW. Finn Gersitz just doing what he can to defend, but you can see the other of the BMWs at the back. That is Eduardo Cosseteng, who's making a move on Petru Umbarescu. So this is for 8th place. He moves to the outside into turn 3 under the heavy braking, going the long way around, then back on the accelerator. Salman Vega to the inside of Alan Valente. It is Mercedes versus Mercedes for 2nd place. Now that car, the Vega car, has got an extra 20 kilos on board as a result of winning last time out. In fact, they won back-to-back races last time out at the Saxon Ring. So a little bit of weight on there, but it doesn't seem to be slowing him too much. And it's 2nd place for Salman Vega.
Yeah, Yus was trying to get in on the action as well. It's brought him back into the battle. He shows his nose now, tries to find a way through as they go downhill now through the left-hander at turn 7. And Janis Fischer just behind as well, making this a 4-way fight in the Porsche. You're right on board with him now as they go over the crest, downhill then steeply into the penultimate corner at turn 9.
Great stuff here, good close racing, although Benjamin Hightes, he'd opened up a gap of 1.5 seconds last time around, riding on board with Janis Fischer in that 5th place. Looking at the back of the Mikhail Yus Porsche, along the pit straight they come. Once again, he's got a slipstream as they head up the hill towards turn 1. He has a little look to the inside under braking, nothing going on at the moment. There is 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th, all running together. Out of the corner we come once again, both of the Yus Sports Sportwagen Technik cars running in the same shot, on board with Janis Fischer once again in that 5th place. And now Mikhail Yus has a little look to the outside. Alan Valente into turn 3, cuts back to the inside, then a drag race out towards turn 4. Still, Valente has that position. Now they're going to run out towards 4 under braking. Yus to the outside. He needs to hold it together here because there is a deep gravel trap on the outside. He gets it slowed down, but still can't steal that position away in the background. Janis Fischer getting ever closer, ready to pounce.
Maxi Mausen still banging on the door here, trying to get past the porter of Finn Gertitz. Gone alongside him on the way into turn 4, and in the background, another BMW making progress. Here's Eduardo Cosateng. He's found his way ahead of Petro Umbaresco into 8th place. Here's a replay on board with the Vega as he made his way through ahead of Valente. He thought he got through there. There was side by side then all the way along that back straight, the downhill run into turn 4. Got to be careful not to overcook it on the brakes into this turn. Down to second gear at about 70 kilometres an hour, and there through he went, and Hughes had to think about it as well, but didn't quite get through in the Porsche.
To remind you that the 1, 2, 3 from the Sachsenring are carrying success ballast. The Salmon Vega car has an extra 20 kilos on board. Benjamin Heites has an extra 10 kilos on board, and Alan Valente an extra 5 kilos on account of their 1, 2, 3 at the Sachsenring. Well, it doesn't seem to be hampering progress too much because they are running in the 1, 2, 3 in this race. It's Benjamin Heites leading the way from Salmon Vega, but you can see he's pulled out a gap of 2.7 seconds. I should think, though, that weight penalty is hampering Salmon Vega somewhat. Alan Valente in the 3rd place, but Michael Hughes on his return to GT racing, pushing hard to get into that 3rd place. Now, track limits may be an issue. Well, the bollards there, they indicate the edge of the track. Well, that's not where the edge of the track is. The bollards have been removed, but the track limits issue has always been one here at the Red Bull Ring. Drivers need to stay within the boundaries of the circuit if they wish to avoid a penalty.
Yeah, this weekend, I think we've got through about 25 different bollards. Been wiped out in every session by every different championship this weekend on that run downhill through the final 2 turns at turns at 9 and 10, both 3rd gear corners, taken at about 140 kilometres an hour at turn at 9, about 130 at turn 10. And look at this, Maxi Mausen getting side by side once again with Finn Gertitz, and whips around the outside of him this time, gets through at last. He is ahead, so that's up into 6th position now for Maxi Mausen. As I say, won the BMW M2 Cup last year. He's coming to GT4. He's very much part of the BMW and Project One family in terms of they're looking to get these young drivers up the pyramid, and this is his first experience at GT3, and he's done a pretty good job, isn't he?
It's his first experience. I bet you it's not his last. He is absolutely loving it here. Finn Gertitz, I spoke to him yesterday. I have to say his head was down a bit. He says he's not enjoying it as much as he had hoped, primarily because he doesn't feel as though he has the pace at the moment, but he has done a great job coming into this. Currently 2nd in the championship, and he has a great mentor in Sven Muller. It'll be Sven Muller who will take over the driving of that car. There is the Engsler car. The car is run by Franz and Luca Engsler. The number 7 car is Jonas Karklees at the wheel. We saw him last time out in the Yoda car, but he's now switched over to Engsler and is joined by John Paul Southern. And John Paul Southern, who we've seen in ADAC GT4 Germany, he has making his debut in GT Masters, and he'll be doing the 2nd stint in the seat of that car. So our race leader, Benjamin Heites, continues ahead of Salmon Vega. That is Eduardo Cosateng in the number 20 car. He's made up a couple of places up to P8. Petra Umbarescu is the last car that he passed. Now closing in on Finn Gertitz. So Finn Gertitz down to 7th place, having been passed by Max Osten. Yeah,
when Osten and Gertitz had their battle on that lap, Cosateng there was able to gain more than a second on them as they held each other up. You're on board with him now, but it gets a bit crossed up, it gets a bit wide as he tries to keep his footing on the way through turn 9. He recovers at turn 10, but that wasn't ideal, so he'll drop back a bit now. It's downhill on the run over the start-finish line. Then it's a very steep uphill climb into the braking zone here for turn 1. Nicky Lauda turn, and through there they go, and you've got to get a good exit there because it's a really steep climb all the way up to the top of the hill at turn 3 now. Flashing his lights is Eduardo Cosateng, but that did cost him a few tenths of a second.
Salmon Vega is the fastest man on the track. He set the quickest lap, the previous lap, of 1:30.574. So the championship leader in the number 48 Mercedes, just closing in slightly on Benjamin Heites, but Heites looks to have this under control at the moment. 2.551 seconds the last time they crossed the start-finish line. There is first, there is second, but the fight for third very much alive and kicking. Alan Valente with Michael Hughes, also Janis Pitcher now coming under pressure from Max Osten. You think he's enjoying his first ever GT3 race. He is making rapid progress in that BMW.
Well, I've seen Maxi raced in BMW M2 Cup. You've watched him race this year in GT4. I think one thing's fair to say, Maxim is a proper racer. He goes for it. He's entertaining, and you don't want him in your mirrors. He's a real handful, the Dutch driver, and great potential for him going forwards as well. He's got a really promising career ahead of him, and as you absolutely rightly say, he's right onto the tail now of the Porsche, and he's getting into his groove. The longer this race goes on, the more into his groove he gets, and it's more and more comfortable in the car. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gains another place in the next couple of minutes.
Using all of the track, maybe just a little bit more as well. We need to be careful of track limits. Looking down from turn one, again, Janus Fitcher on the outside line into turn one. Oosten has a little look, then ducks back in line again. Now out onto turn two. This is taken absolutely flat out. You don't lift off for it as they head up the hill towards turn three. Then it's the heavy braking for the right-hand turn. So into the corner we come, and it is Valente now fending off Mikael Juus in that third place. But it won't be long, I think, before Janus Fitcher and Max Oosten are joining that battle as well. He needs to get past quick, has a little look to the outside towards turn four. It'll be heavy braking again and another right turn. He goes around the outside, brakes a little later. He can't get it slowed down enough. Valente is back through onto the dirt, and he surrenders the position to Janus Fitcher and Max Oosten. So having been challenging for third, suddenly he's relegated 2 positions.
Well, 10 out of 10 for trying for Juus, but it didn't pay off, and he ended up going backwards a couple of places. Valente coming under pressure because he's the only one in the top 6 on the last lap in the 1:31s. All the others around him, in front of him, just behind him, were in the 1:30s. So he needs to up his pace a bit here in the Mercedes. It comes over the crest. It's still there in third place. Meanwhile, the gap's starting to creep down between first and second. Vega was a couple of tenths quicker than IT's on the previous lap, so we'll keep an eye on that. They go through up towards turn one. Second gear, you brake at about 100 metres, and you can see from that high shot just how steep the incline is going into turn one.
Both of the Team Juus Porsches are running together on the track, and both of them have been shown the black and white flag for exceeding track limits. Well, we saw Mikael Juus go wide and pick up a little bit of dirt. I'm not sure he gained much advantage out of that, but both of them are being watched by the stewards for track limits. Up towards turn three we come once again. Taking another look at that move, you can see he tried so hard, as you say, 10 out of 10 for effort, but couldn't quite get it slowed down. Then onto the dirt, and then surrenders a couple of places. It takes a couple of corners to get the tyres cleaned up a bit. Lucky you don't lose a splitter on the gravel, but it looks like he's kept it all together. But he's got work to do now because he's allowed past that BMW and the other Porsche, so he's going to have to fight his way back from there. So car 19, just to confirm, has flashed up with the black and white flag. So that is Mikael Juus, and Finn Gehr sits behind him. So Mikael Juus, who is the team boss, well, he's finding out quite how hard it is to run one of these. Benjamin Heites leads, so the gap between first and second, 2.341. It feels as though Heites has control of this at the moment, although Vega is the quickest man on the track. Alan Valente, though, in the last of the podium positions, has Janus Fitcher and the mighty Max Oosten. Oosten starting to pressure the Porsche in front of him. Now he's closed up, and it looks as though he could be about to make a challenge for fourth place. Out along the pit straight we come. Fitcher anticipates it. He ducks to the inside, but Oosten is already there under braking, and he sails through. Number 10 up to fourth place. He is marching forward, having started at the back of the grid, but now up into that fourth place.
And it's not over yet, because Janus Fitcher now comes under pressure from Juus. The two Porsches absolutely hand in hand as they rise up towards turn three, down to first gear. The outside line, you can hang on in there, though, on the exit over the curbs. There's runoff area, but it doesn't quite work for Juus. But we know he's brave from the earlier attempt on the outside of turn four. He's going to try the same thing again. Well, the inside line is covered. Here on the outside he comes. He's got his nose in front, but he's on the wrong line. So Janus Fitcher just about fends him off, but he might go a bit deep into the corner as they downhill now through turn 5, descend into the left-hander at turn 6 on the grass again here for Juus. But as he's fervent defending here, the blue, white and red Porsche from Janus Fitcher in the battle for 5th place.
Both of those cars have now been shown a black and white flag for exceeding track limits, so it is Janus Fitcher who also joins that list of drivers being watched by the race stewards. Let's have another look here at that move by Max Mausen. Great stuff as he sailed by Janis Fischer. He just ducked to the inside. You saw that Fischer for a moment thought about defending that, but the BMW was already there. A lot of power along that long straight and up the hill. Also a great replay here of the 25 car running on the inside. Janis Fischer on the inside of the other of the Porsches with Michael Jus at the wheel. So we have 43 minutes remaining of this race plus 1 lap. So we're running a little under 8 minutes away from the pit window opening, and that is when each of the cars will need to come in during the 10-minute pit window for a mandatory stop and driver change. But at the moment, Haiti's very much under control, 2.7, so he has pegged back Salman Ovega's charge and has now set the fastest lap of anybody at 1:30.555, and that was on lap 11, so the previous lap. So Haiti's fairly solid at the front at the moment, but Max Mausen continues his challenge forwards. Alain Valente, we said the Mercedes was going to have the BMW in his rearview mirror before too long, and here he comes out towards turn 4. They run. Alain Valente, he has the line, but Max Mausen has looked so quick. His first ever race in GT Masters, showing what he has, and great potential there. It is the fight for third place. Max Mausen trailing the Mercedes at the moment, but is he lining them up? Get a good run into turn 9 and 10, and then pick up a slipstream along the pit straight. Well, he's close at the moment. In turn 9 they come. Alain Valente in front, but this is going to be the opportunity for Max Mausen out onto the pit straight. Nice and close is the BMW. Will he duck out as they head in towards turn 1? Up the hill they come, flashing the lights, trying to distract. Not quite close enough to make a move at the moment. He'll have another go now. A good exit out of turn 1, and then the flat out turn 2. Up the hill he'll come. Still a little bit too far back to make a move at the moment, but it is still foot to the floor all the way around turn 2. Up the hill towards turn 3, ducks to the outside, under braking, but I think Valente has this one covered off in the background. Janis Fischer has fallen too far back to take advantage of that. He has Michael Jus in his rearview mirror, so keeping him well occupied.
And on board with Eduardo Cosatengo is munstering now the 7th place at Porsche of Finn Guess. It's Mausen trying the outside line into turn 4 to try and cut back on the inside through the right-hander at turn 5, but it'll be on the wrong line for the next braking zone on the way into the left-hander at turn 6. It's not going to stop him trying, though, and keeping the pressure on here in the BMW. This could be brave from Maxi Mausen, absolutely side by side with the Mercedes and Valente. Round the outside, surely not, as they go downhill through turn 7. He's now got his nose in front. He's got the inside line for the right-hander. Fantastic move from 10th to 3rd for Maxi Mausen on his debut.
Brilliant stuff. He started stone last in this race, and he has moved his way up bit by bit, and now up into 3rd place. Really solid stuff, and now he sets his sights on Salman Ovega. That is going to be something of a challenge. So as they cross the line, we'll see what the gap is between them. This is a replay. The two cars running side by side. Valente, well, to be fair, he gave him enough room, and Mausen just went sailing around and into that position. Looking at the gap between Benjamin Haiti's and Salman Ovega is 2.867 seconds. The gap between Ovega and Mausen is 7.8. So Mausen, he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to catch up. Some great slow-mos. You can see how much they're hustling the cars around the corners to make up positions. There's Janis Fischer also coming through as well. The local wildlife enjoying the ADAC GT Masters here at the Red Bull Ring.
Salman Ovega in 2nd place with the fastest lap of the race last time around, a 1:30.486, but he's only half a tenth quicker than Benjamin Haiti's, who's doing a good job controlling things in the Lamborghini at the head of the field. There he is, the Grasser Racing team. Grasser's team, very local to this circuit, as Brian was saying. Big gap back from 2nd to 3rd, and having got to 3rd place, Maxi Mausen, who's only been 3rd for a lap, is already about 4 car lengths clear of the Mercedes of Alain Valente. Then you've got Janis Fischer in 5th place, trying to defend from Jus now, and for Fischer, his teammate, no, off the road there, the Porsche.
I think it's Finn Gesitz. Yeah, it is. Looks like he's got problems there. Now, whether that's mechanical or whether he's lost it, was there contact? Eduardo Cosseteng to the inside. It looked like, yes, it was. And I'm thinking that maybe broken steering on the Team Use car. So the number 91 car, Finn Gesitz, second in the championship. That was quite a big impact. And I should think that Eduardo Cosseteng's BMW might have sustained some damage there as well. He goes straight on, steering clearly damaged into the gravel trap. He keeps it going. So has he got it to safety? Because if he hasn't, we may well see a safety car. That would be a bit of a gift to Samuel Vega and also to Max Osten. It looks as though he's kept it going and got it through the gravel trap to the other side. But Finn Gesitz retires from the race, and Sven Muller is not going to get a drive this afternoon. It is under investigation by our race stewards. We saw them coming into turn 3, the two cars bouncing off each other, and the stewards taking a look at that. And Finn Gesitz, well, he wasn't particularly happy coming into the weekend. He's even less happy now because that car is parked up and going no further.
I think he had an eye in the mirrors, and I think he saw Eduardo Cosseteng was about to lunge up the inside. So when you look at the replay, he gets out of the way, he turns left and gets out of the way. Then Cosseteng goes for the gap, and then Gesitz tries to turn in, but finds the BMW there, bounces off it, damages the steering, out of the race. And remember, equal second in the championship with Benjamin Highties and Marco Mappelli, who at the moment lead the race. Any kind of finish for them, and they'll move up to second in the standings outright. So Gesitz out of the way. That puts Cosseteng up to 7th and Baresco up to 8th, and Carclis up into 9th place as we head ever closer towards the mandatory pit window. Highties now extending his advantage, 3.6, nearly 3.7 seconds clear. And then there's a 7.5 second gap from 2nd to 3rd to Awega and Osten in the BMW.
Keeping an eye on Max Osten to see whether he is taking anything out of Samuel Vega, but Vega holding it steady at about 7.5 seconds. Eduardo Cosseteng, he was a couple of seconds slower on the lap that he made the contact, but he's back up to speed now, so it doesn't look as though there's any damage that we can see on the BMW. Certainly nothing that has affected his pace, as Mikael Jus gets a little bit wild coming out of the corner, and he's still behind Janis Fitcher. So Jus still in 6th, Fitcher in 5th. Alan Valente just ahead of him. Janis Fitcher looks like the man on the move at the moment. Samuel Vega remains as the fastest man on the track, but it is still 7.5 seconds back to Max Osten in 3rd. Riding on board with Janis Fitcher in 5th place. Alan Valente just ahead of him. So very much as you were at the moment, but now we are getting close to the pit window. We are 50 seconds away as we see Finn Gesitz's Team Use Porsche being removed to safety. So no safety car required. That is a good job by Finn getting that out of the gravel trap, and meaning that we don't need a caution.
Yeah, Janis Fitcher in 5th place at the moment. He and his teammate Nico Menzel 4th in the standings. They started the season really well with 3 podiums out of the first 4 races of the year, including a win at the Norris Ring. But they haven't had a podium since then. 7th, 8th, 9th and 11th, their last 4 results. So started to fade away from that championship fight now. Only 3 races and 3 qualifying sessions to go after this. So only 84 points available after today's race. And at the moment, without the points from today's race, already 42 adrift, so they could do with getting up the order, but at the moment they're a long way from a podium as the 10-minute pit window now opens.
So the strategy will now kick in, and I'm thinking that Mikael Jus might want to hand the car over to the very experienced Christian Engelhardt before too long and try and do something of an undercut in the traffic. The incident that happened between Finn Gesitz and Eduardo Cosseteng has been looked at by the race stewards, and they've decided that there will be no further action. So as you were, Eduardo Cosseteng survives without any penalty. Very much a racing incident. It's what it looked like to me, and certainly was the case to the race stewards as well. Janis Fitcher, he's staying with Alan Valente again. Will it be that the teams will want to peel some of these cars off into the pits and try and get a bit of a jump through the pit stop sequence? At the moment, the leading cars stay out, but in comes Valente. So Valente in, and also, as we thought might be the case, Mikael Jus going to hand the seat over to Christian Engelhardt at the earliest possible opportunity. Great to have Christian Engelhardt back in the ADAC GT Masters. He was a winner last year In fact, he won twice along with Ian Changun, who is running in DTM this year. But he was in the Team Use car last year, put it to great effect with a couple of wins, and he is the 2020 champion. Valente is in, Ralph Aron on standby. So Ralph Aron comes out, opens the car door, helps Valente out, hurl the seat insert back into the garage, and now it's Ralph Aron's turn to get into the seat. Eduardo Cosseteng, he's handing over to Ben Green. Now, Ben Green will remember this event last year. He, along with Niklas Cruton, took back-to-back wins in the Schubert Motorsport BMW in the GT Masters. Ben Green has been waiting for the Red Bull Ring all year. He has been waiting for this. He loves this place. The car is so quick round here. Let's see what he can do. Also into the pits, Jonas Karklees handing over to John Paul Southern, the guy from America, the driver from America who has been in the ADAC GT for Germany, joins us here in the GT Masters, and really excited to see how he gets on in the Engelhardt Audi.
Yeah, Karklees qualified well this morning, didn't he, on the second row of the grid, but went backwards pretty early on in the race, so not quite working out for him. He hands over to his new teammate for the weekend, the American. We've also had Eduardo Cosseteng, the former British Formula 4 racer, who was on the podium last time out at the Saxon Ring, handing over to Ben Green, the former DTM Trophy champion. And Janis Fitcher now comes in. He's the latest one to see from the commentary box to come into the pit lane. So the Porsche in from what was 4th place. And he's going to hand over now to his teammate, Nico Menzel.
So just 3 cars that have not pitted yet. That is Benjamin Highty, Salmon Ovega, and Max Osten. They were running 1, 2, 3. They remain out at the moment. The rest of the cars have now or are now pitting. Christian Engelhardt joins in 6th place, and it'll be good to see what progress he can make from there. Such an experienced driver. Janis Fitcher handing over to Nico Menzel. We are watching Benjamin Highty's at the moment, our race leader in the traffic. There is Nico Menzel's car, having taken over from Janis Fitcher for Huber Motorsport. There is a minimum pit stop time of 65 seconds from pit entry to pit exit. That is why you've got a countdown clock next to the graphic. If the car gets to the pit exit before the clock strikes 0, there will be a penalty incoming. You can't do any heavy braking in the pit lane though, but Nico Menzel has timed it to within 9/10 of a second. He rejoins, and just coming past is the Mercedes and the Porsche, but of course he is a lap down. Once everything has pitted and everyone has been and gone, then we will be back up to speed. It is Ralph Aron in the number 2 car, of course, who is in the Mercedes.
Yeah, Ralph Aron, former European Formula 3 racer, going well as the start of the first half of the race. Maxi Mausen now comes into the pits after a sparkling debut from 10th to 3rd. He's gone, he gets out of the car, and he'll be pretty good at this once he gets used to GT3 racing, won't he? Brilliant effort from the Dutchman. And if you're going to step out of the car, well, who better to get in your place than the Canadian legend from DTM, the former DTM champion, Bruno Spengler, back in GT Masters.
Bruno Spengler, what a legend. He celebrated his 40th birthday just recently, and the driver from Canada who has done many laps over the years. I look back at his history in DTM, and he has raced so many years in that category. Now taking over from Max Osten, a very powerful combination. He rejoins, so now just 2 cars that have not pitted. So where will he join in relation to Nico Menzel? Well, I think it's going to be well ahead of Nico Menzel, the number 25 car at the moment, just coming out of turn 10. We should see him appearing at the top of the screen, the red, white and blue Nico Menzel car, but it is Spengler on the power. He's going to rejoin well ahead of Nico Menzel, and it's Spengler who carries on in that 3rd place. Benjamin Highties and Salmon Vega still yet to pit. That's a big gap ahead of Nico Menzel. There is Ralph Aron and Christian Engelhardt now up with Ralph Aron up the hill again towards turn 3. Ben Green in the background closing in on Christian Engelhardt. Pit stop infringement, car number 7 under investigation when Jonas Karklees handed over to John Paul Southern. So a penalty lap has been awarded. A visit to the penalty box for an infringement during the pit stops. The pit stops are very heavily regulated. It wasn't a time infringement, so it may have been too many people working on the car. It might have been the incoming driver leaving the garage too early, but a penalty lap for car number 7. He will have to visit the penalty box. That is the equivalent to get getting a 5-second time penalty.
So good battle going on here for on track, 4th, 5th and 6th positions, Menzel, Aron and Engelhardt. Engelhardt, who started the season in DTM with the Top Sport team and was a race winner in the first weekend of the DTM Championship at Oschersleben, but dropped out of the Championship a couple of rounds ago. Good to see the hugely experienced German back out there, though, and back in GT Masters. He's on the tail of Aron. Aron, in turn, he's on the tail of the Porsche of Menzel as they fight, go across the start-finish line. There's less than a second between all three of them as they hurtle into turn 1. In comes then Salman Avega, and he's going to hand over to his co-championship leading teammate Elias Seppänen. Good effort once again by Avega. Had a really good first into the first race at Sachsenring 2 weeks ago, didn't he, to develop himself at I think it was a 16 or 17 second lead. So he has been impressive this year in GT Masters. In he comes for their mandatory stop.
So Elias Seppänen will be coming out of the garage as we speak. He opens the door. He helps Salman Avega to get out. There's a good view of the seat insert that goes on top of Salman Avega's seat insert. They're obviously drivers of a different build. They help each other to get things sorted out, and now it is Avega's turn to get Seppänen plugged in. You can see just 2 mechanics, a maximum 2 mechanics allowed. Now, interesting, putting a bit of tape across the front. The obligatory gaffer tape, well, there's a few wrinkles in that. It needs to go to gaffer tape class, but clearly some issues with the front of the car just lifting slightly. Our race leader, Benjamin Heites, is still out on track as Elias Seppänen comes out of the pits. He rejoins. We'll keep an eye on the countdown clock. Interesting bit of, I think it's gaffer tape or whatever that is at the front, but I'm wondering if the bonnet was maybe lifting a bit.
Yeah, must have been a bit worried about it. Just for reference, about to come into turn 10 is Bruno Spengler, who's the leading pit stopper. So there you can see him, the next one over the line. So the gap will close down as just up to speed now, coming out of the pit lane, and the minimum speed limit is the Mercedes. And then over the crest in a moment, there you will see the BMW, which was, of course, running in 3rd before the pit stop. So we've just got the Lamborghini to come in then, and it's going to be pretty soon because there's only a minute and a half to go. There's Gottfried Grasser, the team boss. He awaits his Lamborghini.
Yes, so here it comes in. Benjamin Heites coming into the pit lane, keeping to the speed limit. Marco Mappelli will be on standby to jump into the car, but Gottfried Grasser, well, he has a bit of a knowing smile on his face because Marco Mappelli, a very useful pilot, he'll be taking over that car. They certainly fancy their chances for the top step of the podium. They've done everything right so far. So out of the car gets Benjamin Heites. Marco Mappelli, the very experienced Lamborghini driver, came close to being in DTM this year, but has moved into GT Masters, but has proven to be very quick indeed. They picked up a win in the second race at the Nürburgring earlier on this year. He's now into the seat of the green Lamborghini. They wait for the clock to count down. They will get the signal in just a few moments. Make sure you're buckled up and plugged in. Great camera angle. The engine fires into life. Now 7-6. In fact, he's a little bit away from the pit exit. Oh, no, he is running now. So towards the pit exit he comes. The clock strikes 0.3. That's a great stop, that is. So nothing lost in the pit stop. Here comes second place, Elias Seppänen. So he will rejoin. Benjamin Heites will come out of the pit lane in front of him. So it is, as you were, Marco Mappelli, should I say, who's taken over from Benjamin Heites, who's at the wheel of the leading car. Once again, Elias Seppänen in second place. Bruno Spengler in third place ahead of Nico Menzel. Ralph Aron, Christian Engelhardt in sixth place at the moment ahead of Ben Green. But Ben Green has now caught Christian Engelhardt. They've had a fair few battles over the last couple of years. Now Christian Engelhardt trying to challenge for position, but not lose the position to Ben Green. It's Ralph Aron ahead of Christian Engelhardt. So Ralph Aron coming in and increasing pressure. Now Christian Engelhardt wants to challenge Ralph Aron, but Ben Green is so close. If that Porsche moves to the side of the Mercedes, then Ben Green is going to be through. You can see as they head towards turn 4, Ben Green looks to the outside of Engelhardt. Engelhardt takes his rightful line into the corner, but how close is Ben Green as they come through turns 4, turns 5, into the windy section of the track? Ben Green, he's looking impatient. He knows he's got a little over 24 minutes plus 1 lap to get up the order. He has plans on a podium this weekend. He's a long way back from it at the moment in 7th place. Ralph Aron, well, it's a bit of a get out of jail for him at the moment because Christian Engelhardt having to defend from Ben Green, so no longer able to attack quite as hard as he was.
Yeah, and Ben Green and Eduardo Constantine had a really good weekend at Sachsenring 2 weeks ago. Great restart after the safety car for Ben Green. He was really aggressive and got them a podium, their second place finish of the season. The British driver on the attack. He carries the onboard camera. He charges over the start-finish line. You ride with Ben Green in 7th place now. This is where the BMW comes into its own on the exit through turn 1, climbing uphill now, going up through the gears, up to 5th gear, and then the second corner, which is a kink really, is taken absolutely flat out. They'll be pushing 235 kilometers an hour before they hit the brakes, drop all the way down to 1st gear for this 3rd corner through the right hand of the go. And sure enough, the BMW is right back on the tail of the Porsche as they go back up through the gears and charge towards turn 4.
So in a line at the moment, but this is the windy section of the track, and shortly when they get round to turn 9, there will be another opportunity, I expect, for Ben Green to make a move. Bruno Spengler is well ahead of them, and in that 3rd place it is a lead of 2.5 seconds of Marco Mappelli over Elias Seppänen. But this battle, which has Nico Menzel at the front, but again the challenge comes on the number 19 car from Ben Green to Christian Engelhardt. Has a little look, now the gap on the inside, Engelhardt closes the door in the Porsche. Ben Green has to back out of it, but he's still close, he's still lining him up. It's not the part of the track you'd expect to see overtaking. Now as they head up towards turn 9 and on towards turn 10, surely this is going to be the opportunity for Ben Green to make the challenge. There will be the slipstream as they head along the pit straight. Out of turn 10 they come, keep within the track limits now up towards turn 1. This is a replay of Ben Green taking that look. We saw it on board. He bails out of it, doesn't he? A black and white flag has been awarded to Ben Green for pushing another car, and that is the moment that got him the black and white flag, a warning from our race stewards.
Yeah, good effort. You consider all of the experience of Christian Engelhardt in GT Masters and GT racing, Nürburgring 24-hour racing. Ben Green could be well pleased with his efforts so far. Bruno Spengler fans are here, and they might just see him on his return to GT Masters for the first time in 8 years get onto the podium. Of course, when he was racing in DTM, very different cars back in the day in the Class 1 era. But Spengler, 9.9 seconds behind the leader, 7.3 behind Seppänen. Seppänen just starting to inch up towards the race leader, and Ben Green is through on the Porsche. Here is how he did it. A replay around the outside into the braking zone at turn 1 to get ahead of Christian Engelhardt. He covered off the line on the way out of the corner. Just he closed the door, he closed the door, he closed the door. Christian Engelhardt almost onto the grass as he tried to get back past through. But ultimately, I think the BMW stayed ahead, didn't it?
It did. So yes, Ben Green has stolen that position away. Christian Engelhardt taking to the grass, a little bit of a billboard there as well. He never gives up, does he? But the BMW has passed. He's going to struggle to return the compliment. So Ben Green up to 6th place, Christian Engelhardt down to 7th. Now, how well can Ralph Aron hold on to the incoming storm that is Ben Green? There's Marco Mappelli, our race leader, along turn 2. Elias Seppänen in 2nd, 2.85 seconds. So I would suggest that Mappelli has this well under control, and then it's another 7 seconds back to Bruno Spengler. So the 1, 2, 3 pretty spaced out at the moment, but from there backwards, Nico Menzel, Ralph Aron, Ben Green and Christian Engelhardt, it is all very much to play for. Also car number 3 taken over Petru Uberescu, Philip Ellis, great to have him back in the ADAC GT Masters. He was sharing with Raffaele Marciello last time we saw him, and we've had Maxi Gertz in that seat, we've had Argemini in the seat. Now it's the turn of Philip Ellis in the number 3 car, currently in 8th place behind Christian Engelhardt. Again, the challenge comes from Nico Menzel in the Porsche, but we're riding on board with Ben Green as he hones in on Ralph Aron just behind Christian Engelhardt. Engelhardt now just dropped back a little. Ben Green monstering the BMW, hassling the Mercedes in front of him around turn 7 and 8, and you get the feeling that as they come out at 9 and 10, Ben Green is going to try exactly the same thing again.
Yeah, Ben Green is really good on the brakes on the way into turn 3. He took about 2 lengths out of the Mercedes last time around, so that is where he might eye up a move at the start of the next lap. You're right on board with Ben Green now, just clattering the curbs. Is Ralph Aron ahead of him? He's already dropped Christian Engelhardt, look there in the Porsche. So flashing the headlights now. Ben Green catching up to Ralph Aron in the battle for 5th place. He wants to do this quickly because he can see Nico Menzel. He's getting away from the pair of them just ahead in the Porsche. Out wide under pressure. pressure goes Ralph Aron on the way through turn 1. This is where the BMW and Ben Green are really strong. Ralph Aron knows it, so he's going to hog the inside line, or is he? There is a gap. Ben Green finds it. It's big enough for a BMW to slot down the inside, and that is exactly what he does. Ben Green goes through and gains another place, so that now puts him ahead of Ralph Aron and then back into the top 5.
A textbook move from Ben Green and some lessons in how to overtake on the Red Bull Ring, but Ralph Aron is fighting back on the outside. Ben Green has the line into the corner, shuts the door nice and firmly. Now he sets about after Nico Menzel in 4th place. I think with just a little under 18.5 minutes plus 1 lap remaining, he's got his work cut out to catch up with 3rd place Spengler. But Aron is not done yet, is he? He's still keeping with Ben Green. Now Ben Green starts to shake him off a little bit as they head around turns 7 and 8. Christian Engelhardt now behind Ralph Aron. So Aron, having been attacking Ben Green, with Ben Green getting past, now it's Christian Engelhardt who is attacking Ralph Aron. Aron having to drive defensively once again from that Porsche. Look how quickly Ben Green has left behind the Mercedes in the second half of that lap. Ahead of him, Nico Menzel in 4th place.
So Marco Mapelli and Benjamin Highties get the win here, which will be their second in the last 4 races, their second of the season. They're going to get 25 points, 5 more than Zeppelin and Avega, who are in 2nd place, and that will bring the gap down to 26 points. It's still a pretty healthy championship lead, but certainly up to 2nd place in the championship on their own will go the 2 Lamborghini drivers, and will be a good day for the Grasser Racing team after what's been for them in the DTM, at least a pretty frustrating one. They didn't have a good result there at all in DTM earlier on, ending in a retirement ultimately for one of their drivers, Clement Schmidt. But it's all going pretty well for them here. The home race, and they look for a 2nd win of the season. Mapelli, having just lost out a little bit through that pit stop window, he's got into his groove now, and he's grown the gap over the last 3 laps. It's over 3 seconds now, back to Zeppelin in the 2nd place Mercedes.
Looking into the GRT Grasser garage, very thoughtful moments there as they're watching Marco Mapelli and using all of the curbing and just being very careful. We're pleased to say that the rain has held off so far. Only needs to hold off for another 16.5 minutes, so no dramas there. Marco Mapelli looking for his 2nd win of the year, and the ADAC GT Masters, 1 race 2 at the Nürburgring, along with Benjamin Highties riding on board up that hill. It's a fairly steep hill into turn 1. It's a mega steep hill up into turn 3. I tried to run it last night. I had to have a lie down afterwards. But he's looking fairly chilled, isn't he? 1 hand on the wheel. Saturday afternoon drive, I think, for car 63.
Ben Green's just got the fastest lap of the race. Before that, the lap before, Philip Ellis has got the fastest lap as he, in the Mercedes, tries to catch Christian Engelhardt for 7th place. He's 5 seconds back, though, is the former DTM racer. So Ben Green, fastest lap of the race now, 1 minute 30.4, 4 tenths quicker than Nico Menzel, 6 tenths of a second behind him. And look at this, that now comes down to 0. So 6 tenths at the start of the lap. By the time they get to turn 3, the gap is down to just about half a car length between the Porsche and the BMW.
Ben Green is looking mighty in that BMW. Now fighting for the 4th place. He flashes the lights, just trying to unsettle Nico Menzel ahead of him in that 4th place. He sees a gap on the inside. I was expecting him to wait until he comes out of turns 9 and 10 before he makes his move, but he's looking impatient. He ducks to the side of Nico Menzel, trying to go round the outside. He does exactly that on turns 6 and 7. Now the drag race out of the corner. Nico Menzel fighting back, but Ben Green, how good does that look? The BMW sailing past, didn't even wait to the straight, and he is up into 4th place. Now, Bruno Spengler is a long way ahead of them, some 4.5 seconds, or 4.3 seconds. So that's going to take a bit of work in 14 3/4 minutes, but the BMW does look so quickly. Of course, Bruno Spengler also in a BMW. I'm not sure he's going to wind him in quite as easily as that. We look again at that move. Really good stuff. Just hanging it out around the outside. Didn't even need to wait till he was on a straight to make the move.
Yeah, it's a lovely move, that from Ben Green. It's a great sequence of corners, that, isn't it? The left at turn 6 through to the left at turn 7, Grat. You can keep around the outside. It's a downhill run. It's like a real roller coaster. And Ben Green displaying extreme confidence there to get the move done. So Mapelli leads by 3.1 seconds from Zeppelin. Spengler in third, Green in fourth place now, with clear air in front of him for the first time since he got in the car.
But car 63 is under investigation. Marco Mapelli is under investigation. The seatbelt was loose when he's left the pits. Well, that message has now been updated. It's reported to the stewards. But I have to tell you, our race directors do not take kindly to that kind of thing. His seatbelt loose when he left the pits. That could bring up a penalty. We'll wait and see what happens there, but Marco Mapelli under investigation by our race stewards. That's our race leader. If the race were to finish now, then Elias Seppen and Salman Vega that's how it was coming into the race. I beg your pardon, coming in. So it was 31 points with Finn Gessit, Sven Muller, Ben Heites and Marco Mapelli were 31 points adrift of the race leader. But if the race finished now, then they would close that up to about 20 points back. Into turn one once again. We keep an eye on whether there is any kind of penalty that might be incoming for Marco Mapelli. It's reported to the stewards at the moment, but Elias Seppänen in second place, looking solid. Christian Engelhardt has closed in on Ralph Aron once again, and he in turn is running with Nico Menzel. Ben Green has left them in his wake as he disappears off up the hill. 12 3/4 minutes left of this race. Can he do anything about Bruno Spengler? I think it's going to be quite difficult. 5.4 seconds is the gap back, so he can really do with Bruno Spengler having a moment. That doesn't happen very often in the life of Bruno Spengler, does it?
Philip Ellis has had a pretty lonely time of it since he got in the car after the pit stops, but he's been chipping away, and he is catching this trio here. So you can just see him coming in the background now. He was 5.5 seconds back. He's now 3.8 seconds back. Still 12 minutes on the clock. So I think in the last 5 or 6 minutes, Ellis is going to join that battle as they go through, with Christian Engelhardt just dropping back a little bit now from Ralph Aron, and then Nico Menzel in the Porsche at the head of the group. So 5th, 6th and 7th. Being caught by 8th. Ben Green having got the moves done, starting to edge away from them now at BMW's 3rd and 4th. So Ben Green with a really good drive here, but I'm not sure he can get any higher up the order. Mapelli under investigation, but 3.2 seconds to the good. His last lap was a 1:30.9, a 1:30.7 for Zeppelin. So Zeppelin, championship leader, doing all he can to keep up the pressure here, but not close enough yet to threaten the Lamborghini. Ben Green then up the hill into Niki Lauda corner, turn 1. Then this battle that's going on for 5th, 6th and 7th positions. Way out wide goes Christian Engelhardt as he tries to keep the power in, get the foot down on the gas as quickly as possible and climb uphill now to the top of the course.
Just to confirm that if the race were to finish now, Elias Seppen and Salman Vega would have a 29-point lead over Benjamin Heites and Marco Mapelli, who would jump up into second place. There are still 3 races remaining in the ADAC GT Masters, so still lots of points on the table. But Elias Seppen and Salman Vega, all they need to do is pick up solid points in every race, and that's exactly what they're doing once again. They were back-to-back winners at the Saxon Ring last time out, currently running in second place. And that is all they need to keep doing. Ben Green has broken clear of Nico Menzel. The fight behind continues to rage on. Christian Engelhardt really struggling to find the pace to get past that Mercedes in front of him with Ralph Aron at the wheel. Ralph Aron clearly driving in a fairly defensive way, but Christian Engelhardt still unable to get past. You can see him just brushing the gravel slightly. Christian Engelhardt close, but is he close enough? Up to turn 9. Out of 9 into 10, and then it'll be along the pit straight, but it doesn't feel as though that Porsche has quite the grunt to get past as they head along the pit straight. There is Ben Green in the BMW, disappearing off in 4th place. Now along the pit straight they come. There's Ralph Aron, Christian Engelhardt just behind him, but too far back on this section of the track to actually do anything about it. Up the hill into turn 1. A big crowd here enjoying the ADAC GT Masters and the DTM and Porsche Carrera Cup Germany and Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux and BMW M2 Cup here at the Red Bull Ring this weekend. Entertaining racing in the Styrian Mountains as we look down from turn 3.
biggest golf buggy I've ever seen. That is like a stretched limo version of a golf buggy as the fans watch on in this hugely scenic Red Bull ring, which was bought and developed by ADAC Masters 12 years ago now, back in 2011. And of course, as a circuit back in its original form as the Oostenrijk ring, dates all the way back to the late 1960s, the former Grand Prix circuit. So Mapelli, just under 3 seconds his advantage now, still chipping away, still trying to keep the pressure up. In Zeppelin in the Mercedes in second place. Third is Spengler out on his own. He's just on a personal best first sector. Ben Green in the BMW 4.5 seconds behind him. And then we got this battle still raging on for 6th place between Ralph Aron, who's defending well here, but once again he hucks the Mercedes over the curbs, gets close to the gravel trap as they make their way through turns 6 and 7. They're 26 points with the 3 points from qualifying on pole this morning, Heighties and Mapelli, but still a big advantage that, isn't it, with 3 races to go after this one, 25 for each win, 75 points available from the races, plus potentially 9 points from qualifying on pole, 84 available, 26 to go. Zeppelin and Vega can afford not to win every race from now on and still easily win the championship.
0 out of 10 for my maths then. I said 29, forgot about the qualifying points, didn't I? Anyway, so Vega and Zeppelin still in that comfortable position. And if things finish as they are now, still a race win ahead of 2nd place. Christian Engelhardt started to run out of time. 8 minutes of this race remaining. We're having a look at Elias Seppänen as he uses a bit of curb, goes wide into the corner, and will have memories of Hockenheim where the steering broke, having collected a curb when they were in such a strong position and recorded a DNF. Great replays though. Our camera crew getting some great angles as our race leader going through. Marco Mapelli, Elias Seppänen 2.731 behind, so not completely out of the running. Bruno Spengler 8.036 behind them, and Ben Green, I think 4th place is probably as far as Ben Green is going to go unless some of the cars in front start to encounter problems.
So is this Marco Mapelli controlling the pace, just bringing it home, or is he generally starting to struggle a bit with the tyres on the car now? 0.2 of a second per lap for the last 3 laps have been taken out of him, as you can see on the graphic there. And the gap, which was at 1 point 3.5 seconds, down to 2.2 now. 0.2 of a second per lap. Still takes 5 laps just to get a second back, but he will see that Mercedes getting bigger and bigger in the mirrors. That starts to put its own pressure on the driver, doesn't it?
Yes, it's suddenly looking very much up in the air. Mapelli does look to be struggling for pace, and I wonder whether Benjamin Heighties had taken quite a lot out of the tyres in the opening stages of this race. Of course, tyre changes not allowed in GT Masters. Whatever state the tyres are in, when you hand the car over to your teammate, they have to handle that all the way to the end. But suddenly, Elias Seppänen can see the race leader in front of him. He's got a sniff of a top step of the podium position, and he is closing in. So it was 2.257 last time across the start-finish line. They're out around turns 6 and 7 at the moment. So he's already taken 0.2 of a second out in half a lap. So Elias Seppänen is closing. Marco Mapelli looks to be struggling. Ben Green still the fastest man on the track with a 1:30.438, but this is the fight that we are watching for the lead. Marco Mapelli leading Elias Seppänen. When you can see the target in front, you've got something to fire at, haven't you? And he is closing in on Marco Mapelli. Across the line they come once again. Let's see what the gap is this time as they cross the line. 2.3. So Mapelli looks to have responded slightly and increased the pace.
Yeah, 1:30.6 on that last lap. Well, he's the best lap of that Lamborghini is a 1:30.5. The tyres holding up. It's just that Zeppelin is driving well, I think, and just keeping that pressure up. So all he can do, isn't it? It's pretty kind on the tyres, this circuit. It's a very smooth surface, certainly compared to the last one that we had at the Sachsenring, which is pretty abrasive. So it was still a long time to expect the Pirelli tyres to withstand all the battering they take, but I think the tyres are holding up just fine at the moment. It's just that the Mercedes driver is doing a good job here, keeping that pressure up. He might not be right with the Lamborghini, but he's making Mapelli drive as quickly as he can, and that means that you always force the chance of a mistake potentially from the race leader. So doing his best here, but Mapelli just getting himself that bit more breathing space with under 5 minutes to go now.
And a bit of masking tape, gaffer tape that was on the front of the Sepulveda car appears to be parting company, but whatever it is, it doesn't seem to be slowing him down, does it? Just to remind you, of course, Elliot Sepulveda carrying that extra 20 kilos on account of a win at the last race, the Saxon Rim, which was about 3 weeks ago. We continue to follow Ralph Aron in 6th place ahead of Christian Engelhardt. Christian Engelhardt will have been staring at the back of that Mercedes for such a long time. You can see how hard Ralph Aron is pushing because he's just clipping the edge of the track. You see the gravel and the dirt being kicked up in the air, but he's doing what he needs to do to keep that Mercedes in front. The incredible experience of Christian Engelhardt in the Porsche. He's trying everything, but 7th place seems to be as far as he can go. Along the pit straight, suddenly Aron seems to have the legs up in towards turn 1, and the point where you would normally try and overtake, and Christian Engelhardt just doesn't have the grunt to get past.
Yeah, when Christian Engelhardt goes to bed tonight, closes his eyes, on the inside of his lids, you'll see the rear wing of that Mercedes. He's been staring at it for the whole stint, hasn't he? And finally, after trying to catch them up, Philip Ellis is almost there, like in the Mercedes just behind. He's been 3 or 4 tenths of a second per lap quicker. He was 5.5 seconds down when he got into the car. It's down to just over a second now, but he might just run out of time here. He wants to have somebody to play with, wants to have a fight, get involved in a scrap. He's been on his own, but now he's close enough to flash the lights and say, hello, boys, I'm going to join a bit of the party as well. I'll get involved in this fight if I can for the last couple of laps.
Beautifully put. Marco Mapelli 1.9 ahead of Elliot Sepulveda. So once again, the gap is closing down. We haven't had any more news on the seatbelt issue that flashed up on the timing screen. That might be something that is discussed once the race is finished. But Mapelli 1.9 ahead of Sepulveda. Bruno Spengler in a fairly lonely 3rd place. This is the closest battle on the track with 2 3/4 minutes plus 1 lap remaining of race 9 of a 12-race season in the ADAC GT Masters. It's Marco Mapelli leading the way. See the sparks coming from underneath the GRT Grasser Lamborghini as he hits the curbs going into the corner. He's pushing hard still, isn't he?
Yeah, Ben Green's still pushing hard as well. Absolute best first sector. New fastest lap of the race, right at the end of the race with a 1 minute 30.2. Tyres are used up, car's a bit lighter of fuel, but Ben Green still pushing on to try and catch Bruno Spengler. He was 4.5 seconds behind. He's now just over 2 seconds behind. I fear he's going to run out of time, but it's not for the want of trying from Ben Green. Replay of the Lamborghini hopping and skipping and dancing over the tarmac and then trailing a blaze of sparks as he went over the curbs into the first corner.
It's firework night come early here at the Red Bull Ring. Great shots of Marco Mapelli pushing hard. Nico Menzel continues in 5th place. Ralph Aron continues in 6th place. Christian Engelhardt continues in 7th place. Has he got anything else up his sleeve? Philip Ellis rushing to join this battle. Ralph Aron, though, doing a good job just placing the Mercedes everywhere it needs to be to stop Christian Engelhardt getting past. He knows where the Porsche is strongest and he's able to drive as defensively as possible. Christian Engelhardt trying to force Ralph Aron into some kind of a mistake. He's closer than ever at the moment. In 6th place, Ralph Aron. 7th place, Christian Engelhardt. Looks to the inside. Aron has it covered off. Out again towards turn 9 and 10, but this is the point where the Mercedes seems to be stronger when they get out onto the pit straight. Engelhardt is pushing him all the way through turns 6, 7 and 8, then up to 9 and 10. That's where the gap opens up and the frustration for Christian Engelhardt as they head up towards turn 1.
It's impressive this though, isn't it, from the Estonian, from Ralph Aron, because he's had that Porsche breathing down his neck the entire time, the entire second half of the race, and it would have been so easy to get distracted by that luminous yellow car in the mirrors and outbrake yourself by a couple of centimetres or just go a bit wide out on one of the corners. But he hasn't ever really given Christian Engelhardt half a chance. But now he's going to have 2 to defend from. Here we go. Engelhardt lunges. He's had enough. He dives at the inside. There's contact. Out wide goes Ralph Aron. And look at Philip Ellis. He's going to try and join the party. Now they're still side by side. But somehow, Brian, Ralph Aron is still ahead.
Well, a 10 out of 10 for Christian Engelhardt, giving it a whirl, but 11 out of 10 for Ralph Aron, holding on with the experience of Christian Engelhardt. Now he tries again into turn 4, but behind them, Philip Ellis ready to jump. He's got his eyes on the position that Christian Engelhardt occupies, but we are running out of time. The clock is about to strike 0. There will be about a lap and a quarter left for our leader. So if Christian Engelhardt's going to try this again, he needs to do it soon. Ralph Aron, you get the feeling the tyres have cried enough on that Mercedes. He's starting to leave gaps again. Christian Engelhardt looks to the inside, looks to the outside. He's got a gap now as they head again towards turn 9. Was there contact? Christian Engelhardt almost with 2 wheels onto the grass. Philip Ellis there. He sees his opportunity. Out onto the pit straight they come. Out of turn 10. Once again, still Ralph Aron in 6th place. Christian Engelhardt in 7th. Philip Ellis with him as well. What's going to happen as they head towards turn 1? We're having a look again at this moment when Christian Engelhardt saw that gap on the inside, got under braking, but then couldn't slow it down enough. Ralph Aron goes wide out of the corner and is able to defend that position. We're into the final lap of the race.
Ben Green is only half a second behind Bruno Spengler. He's on a real charge here. Can he get onto the podium as well? It's going to be close between those two.
Brilliant stuff. This fight, which will rage all the way to the flag. There is Nico Menzel in fifth place. Behind them is a fight with Ben Green once again to the outside, this time with Bruno Spengler. So the fight for the last of the podium positions. Ben Green, BMW versus BMW. Ben Green, who won back-to-back races here at the Red Bull Ring and the GT Masters last year, wants to get himself on the podium. He's fighting Bruno Spengler on the final lap of the race. Our race leader currently coming into the last 2 corners. Marco Mappelli leading the way. This is the fight for the last of the podium positions. Elias Sepinen in a solid 2nd place. But here comes our race leader and our race winner out of the final corner. It is Marco Mappelli who wins from Elias Sepinen, but who is going to come out of those corners in 3rd place? We see the team applauding in the GRT Grasser garage, but 3rd place, well, I'm looking out the window and it is going to be Bruno Spengler by an absolute fraction ahead of Ben Green. Nico Menzel will be next. Ralph Aron, what a job from him. He held off the experience of Christian Engelhardt and Philip Ellis to come home in 6th place. And then we just wait for John Paul Southern to come home in 9th place. What a great race that was from the ADAC GT Masters.
Yeah, really enjoyed that. Terrific battle, wasn't it? Well, lots of battles. I mean, we had Maxi Mausen, first of all, in the first stint, charging his way from 10th to 3rd. Then we had that great battle with Ben Green and Christian Engelhardt. And then Engelhardt, Aron and Ellis at the end. And then Ben Green just doesn't give up. He doesn't know how to give up, does he? He was miles behind Bruno Spengler with 10 minutes to go. And he almost gets him on the line. A 10th of a second between them. Almost on the podium for Ben Green. A terrific effort. 4th place in the end, though. And Bruno Spengler, the fan club will be happy. The 2012 DTM champion finishes on the podium in GT Masters. A really enjoyable 60 minutes plus 1 lap of racing, Brian.
Brilliant stuff. So it is Marco Mappelli who crossed the line ahead of Elias Sepinen and Bruno Spengler. Ben Green into that 4th place. A charge from the absolute back of the grid for he and Eduardo Cossetang ahead of Nico Menzel, Ralph Aron, Christian Engelhardt and Philip Ellis. John Paul Southern was 47 seconds behind, but it was his debut in the ADAC GT Masters. And Jonas Karklees, who's come from TCR Racing, our only non-finisher was Finn Gersitz, and Sven Muller was the only driver who didn't get to drive this afternoon because Finn Gersitz didn't actually make it to the pit window. There is our race winner, and there is the GRT Grasser garage applauding. And Gottfried Grasser, well, plenty to celebrate here at the Red Bull Ring. Their home race, and what a way to do it. Taking a win in the first of 2 races this weekend.
Yeah, they're in real good form, aren't they? 2 wins and a second out of the last 4 races. And we're not for tyre troubles in race 1 at Sachsenring. That might have been another podium finish as well. So they are on a charge and they're up to 2nd in the championship, and they're keeping the championship hopes alive with that race victory to close the gap. It's 26 points now on Zeppelin and Vega. But all the fun and games was really going on behind, wasn't it? Great to see Bruno Spengler in the championship. Another really impressive effort from Ben Green. And a charging first half of the race on his debut from Maxi Mausen as well, who was terrific value for money.
So with the qualifying points taken into account, it's Benjamin Heites and Marco Mappelli that leapfrog Finn Gesitz and Sven Muller up into second place, and that is 26 points adrift of Elias Seppänen and Salmon Ovega. That second place for Seppänen and Ovega really solidifying their position, because we now only have 3 races left in the championship. So that is 84 points on the table. So dare Elias Seppänen and Salmon Ovega dream? Well, there's a little way to go yet. An awful lot can happen. Not much of a gap there for the first place car to get through. I think he's going to have to abandon it a little bit further back. He won't mind about that, though. Marco Mappelli, Benjamin Heites taking their second win of the season. Their first was at the Nürburgring, and a good and solid drive. See nothing else on the issue with the seatbelts that was flashed up on the timing screens. I think that's going to be investigated after the race. Hopefully no issues there. But congratulations from the team as Marco Mappelli, a true entertainer, steps from that Lamborghini. Heading towards the podium presentation, which we'll have shortly, but a well-earned drink, of course. Very different kind of conditions to what we had before. And last time out at the Sachsenring, where it was the heat and the tyre degradation was the topic. Here, it was all about, is it going to rain? And can you get the tyres up to temperature and keep them in the window? Marco Mappelli looking fairly chilled. He's just had a fairly gentle drive in the afternoon sun, really, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, certainly a little bit less heat in the cockpit than they endured at the Sachsenring a fortnight ago, when it was 30 degrees air temperature and about 60 degrees inside the cockpits of the cars. It's fairly autumnal, 15 degrees now, but it's still hard work for the drivers. You can see the sweat-sodden hair of the Italian driver there, looking very cool, though, as he gets out of the car. Another race win for he and his teammate, and home win for Grasser Racing Team as well. Great to see Bruno Spengler back here as well, isn't it? Always a popular driver and a really nice chap as well to do.
And there is Max Mausen alongside him. What a debut in GT Masters, debuting on the podium. Brilliant stuff in the FK Performance BMW. They pose for photos. Elias Seppänen and Salmon Ovega in their second place. So this will have been their second place, actually, that they've scored. They've had 3 wins, and they've had a third place. As the first time that they've had the second place on the podium. So 4 wins, not 3 wins, for Seppänen and Ovega. And the third place for Spengler and Osten. Those are our winners, though. Marco Mappelli, he's won 3 times before, so now that is a 4th win for him, and it is a 2nd win for Benjamin Heites in the ADAC GT Masters. And there is Gottfried Grasser as well, posing for the photos in their home race. Their base was about 10 minutes down the road from here, and they love this Austrian circuit, and the Austrian team, who are legends in the world of GT racing and have so much history in GT Masters. There is Salmon Ovega and Elias Seppänen getting used to standing on the podium.
This is a real pinch-me moment for Maxi Mausen. When Bruno Spengler won the DTM Championship, he was 8 years old. And here he is, riding with him, driving with him, and getting on the podium.
Amazing stuff. But, they are on to the 3rd step of the podium. Elias Seppänen and Salmon Ovega on to the 2nd step. But our race winners, Marco Mappelli, Benjamin Heites, their 2nd win of the season, take the top step of the podium in the ADAC GT Masters, race 9 of the season. And Gottfried Grasser receives a podium place as the winning team in this race. Now it's time for the national anthem. So, national anthem done. The trophies to be presented. So, it's Benjamin Heites and Marco Mappelli. Some great Red Bull trophies.
General Manager, Projekt Spielberg GmbH. Für die Zweitplatzierten für Simon
The second place trophy being awarded by Erich Wolf, General Manager of Project Spielberg.
Michael Blaufuß, Leiter Motorsport Pirelli Deutschland.
And the third place trophies, great trophies they are, wonderful Red Bull trophies. So the third place, Bruno Sprengler, Maxi Mausen. What a great day they've had. Of course, it'll be the number 2 drivers that will qualify the cars tomorrow. And it'll be the drivers that qualify today that will have the second stint behind the wheel in what will be race 10 of the 12-race season. So, quick pose for photos.
Their celebrations from their DTM victory at the Nürburgring are anything to go by. The Gottfried Grasser and the GRT team will have a few crates of beer in the garage at the end of this race to celebrate for all of the team to enjoy. As Brian, it's time for the last race of the day, the one for the champagne.
And everybody run for cover, and just the one driver left on the podium to celebrate. It has been a very entertaining race 9 of the season for the ADAC GT Masters. We get to do it all again tomorrow, though. It will be race 10, and then we will be looking towards the end of the championship. Join us tomorrow for the next race in the ADAC GT Masters.